Today I want to look at 5 sets of discs. I want to look at the mystery box FD, the Ricky Explorer, the West Side Bear, a Glimmer Evader, and the Discmania Royal Rage 2, which is just another Instinct with Lux, I think. Vapor Instinct. So I want to see how they fly compared to one another. We're going to go 9 holes and do each shot with each one and see how they do those lines, if I can actually put them on those lines. So let's talk about how these feel. There's not a noticeable difference in how the rim on all of them are in any particular way. The FD, obviously when this sea line plastic gets cold, it feels pretty rough and pretty tough. It does right now. The Royal Rage, this vapor plastic, I once didn't like the way this flew, but in testing it for this video, I decided I liked it a lot more. Even out in the cold, has a lot more give to it, so I like that. Even the Bear, however, in this VIP plastic, it is a bit tighter and a bit more firm than it normally would be, but of all of these Sea Line Champion type plastics, this VIP Ice feels really nice. And then all of 3 of those are relatively flat and just a slight dome, but you'll notice that you get into the Evader and this Glimmer plastic, it's just as stiff. If you really try, like, it's got some give to it, but it doesn't feel slippy. But it does have a slight bit more dome. And then the Enforcer in this Ricky line, like this one is the most firm of them all, has the biggest dome of them all, which I think we'll see translates to more stability, which is a good thing and a bad thing depending on how you like what you like. I know some people don't like the way the dome feels, so see how they fly. So on this first hole, hole 1, you'll notice it's about 600 feet, so we get to go full send. And so this FD has a phenomenal flip up that turns out really well at the end, glides really far, and still has a pretty hard fade at the end. The Royal Rage kind of surprised me quite a bit, because I once thought it was a lot more understable, but this Vapor Instinct flies like a decently beat in Meta Instinct, and so it flies a lot straighter, pretty much like that FD almost. Flips up straight, turns out, may not glide nearly as far. And then we got to the Evader, and this is where we'll start to notice that the Evader and the Explorer are significantly more overstable than the other 3. Which again isn't a bad thing, depends on if that's the spot we want in our bag. And then the Bear happens to be the most understable of them all, which probably is to be expected with the negative 0.5 on it. Flies a bit more like maybe a -1, because I gave it quite a bit of hyzer and height, and you see it just turns out. And then the Explorer, I just threw on absolute flat because I knew this was going to be more overstable than a Gold Explorer like I did in another video. And I just threw it flat and yanked it out there, and no turn whatsoever, and came back in. And then I moved on from that shot to the next spot where the FD landed, which was about 270 feet forehand. Now, I expect these to need a bit more hyzer to flip up to flat on a forehand, and so I just angled it wrong and threw it right into the tree. And then I tried to overcorrect with the Explorer, and I threw it low and turned over, so those were not good to gauge the flight. However, I threw the Instinct next, and this one flies pretty much like the FD would, and you see it just flips up nice, carries really far on hyzer straight, and then dumps out at the end. And then the Evader, same idea, probably a little less stable than the Explorer, but similar flight path. You see I threw it a little flatter, has a bit more turn because of the torque the forehand's putting on it. Turns out a little and then fades back exactly towards the target. And the Bear was the one I did not expect to actually do very well on the forehand, but it did. I sat there and threw it on hyzer, and it flipped up straight and just didn't turn much at all and just carried forever. If you have pretty good angle control on your forehand, then it seems like something like a Bear or even the FD will give you effortless distance on your forehand. So then the next hole, I didn't want to do the double mando, so instead I went to do a turnover, and so I gave the FD a bit too much height, so it flew all the way to that right side of the screen. Next one, I tried to make it a little bit of a lower and tighter forehand or turnover with the Instinct. It pulls tight around that corner, but it doesn't have enough fade to pull itself out at the end quick enough. But then we get into things like the Evader and the Explorer, and both of those you're able to put a lot tighter and a lot lower, knowing that they're gonna come out and finish with their fade at the end. But then we get to that Bear. I need to put this one a bit higher so that it has enough time to come out of this angle and finish it flat. And so this is the line that the Instinct and the FD should have been on. Next hole was just about a 230, 240 foot circle one island hole. So almost all of them fly pretty similar in this one. I could have just swung them out wide a bit more, but they all had decent spikes. You'll notice the more understable ones like the FD, the Bear, and the Instinct, all on hyzer. Up in the air, they're going to swing more because they're not trying to pull, the design of the disc isn't trying to pull it to the ground as hard as the Evader and the Explorer, where even low with the Evader, it just like pulled it into the ground into a spike, which is really cool. But I don't think that's what I would have thrown on that hole, but it gives you an idea of how they swing out and how they dive into the ground. And then this last one is going to go over an OB golf green, and so you needed to be able to carry about 400 and then let the disc swing out. I had tried to do that with the FD, but I didn't give it enough height. And then at the fade part of the flight path, let it just like gravity pull it left. And then the Bear, I tried to do that a bit higher, but you'll see it just kind of turns out. And then the Instinct, that one was probably one of the better of the three more understable ones. It flew straight and then it stalls out at the end and starts to fade, but not as much as you need, so I probably should have put it a bit higher. But then we get into the two more overstable ones, which is why I can understand wanting both of them in the bag, or at least a stable and an understable one, or overstable one, because I put the Evader and the Explorer both just on flat / a little hyzer, up high as hard as I could, let it push out until the end of its flight, let it pull them left, which you'll see they all swing that way. And then I wanted to just see what these discs would do on a nice, relaxed, flat, open 300-foot shot. And the FD, the Bear, they all had a pretty effortless with a little bit of a turn. The Bear had a bit more than the FD, of course, and you'll see that. So if you're wanting something that's going to give you a bit more flight in the air, the FD and the Bear are going to be the better ones if you're kind of that 300 to 350 arm speed, I'd imagine. And then the Instinct could be your more stable version of those three, rather than needing to pump all the way up to the Evader and the Explorer. And then, as we've seen these last few holes, the Evader and Explorer fly completely more overstable, and so on flat they're just going to go out and then fade out pretty hard. And so it all depends on what you're wanting them for. I particularly I have two spots in the bag, one for each of these kinds of discs. I have one that's pretty straight and a little flippy, and then one that's a lot more reliable into a headwind or with a stronger fade. This may not be a matter of which one of the five, but actually which one of these three, this in this category and which in this category. So with that being said, and I'm going to do a giveaway for whichever disc you guys want. I'll do drawing on day 7. I don't think I'll do this one because I think I'm going to bag this one. And I told a friend I'd give him this. So we'll do a giveaway between these three. Two of the more understable, or the more straight stable, and the Glimmer Evader. And so all you have to do is comment your thoughts on the video, your thoughts on those discs, like and subscribe, and then I will do a drawing for everyone that commented and send that out to you guys. So